Here at Unexplained Reality, we are 100% supportive of our service members and veterans. We have a number of veterans in our family, and my son-in-law is active duty serving our wonderful country. We have come across a wonderful veteran-owned company called Awesome Bad Clothing. They design and sell very cool t-shirts and hats, and best of all, they are veteran-owned. So hit them up at awesomebadclothing.com and have a look at their incredible merchandise and let them know you heard about them from Unexplained Reality.
Good evening, and welcome to Unexplained Reality, the podcast about the weird, strange, and unexplained, but real. We are delighted to have you with us. Please grab your favorite beverage, sit back, and enjoy.
Good evening and welcome to Unexplained Reality. I am one of your hosts, Brian Quinn, and with me is my son,
Harrison Quinn.
Hope everybody's doing good. It's been a couple weeks since we put out episodes, so it's time to get back together. We've been doing some things. We have brought up our website, so you can check that out at www.unexplainedreality.com. It'll be changing and building over the next weeks, months, or it'll probably never stop now that we got it up. So you can check that out, and you can go download the latest episodes from there. We'll eventually have some blog posts, and you can go fill out a contact form and just keep up with the show from there. We'll start adding show notes as we get better at coordinating all this. Right now, we're doing a lot of building and a lot of constructing that website and trying to do research for podcasts. So hope everybody's been good. As usual, run-of-the-mill stuff. You can reach us at unexplained.reality@yahoo.com. Now you can reach us on the website. You can reach us on Facebook. We have links for all our social media on unexplainedreality.com. We have a Facebook group. We have a Facebook page. We have Twitter. We have Instagram. All that stuff. YouTube channel. You can do all that through the Facebook page, and the website and the little social media icons that are floating around on that page. So Harrison, how's it been back to school?
Pretty good.
Summer's over.
Yeah, getting back into the routine is definitely a good thing. So
yeah, it's real hard. I know it was. I worked all summer, wasn't off, but it was still hard. It's hard not having everybody having to get up in the morning and be ready to go. Mom going back to school and everybody leaving in the morning. So it's kind of a rat race back to it. So anyways, you got anything news-wise or you want to talk about?
Not that I can think of right now, no.
Well, now's the time to think about it. Let's see. I got it's kind of I guess not a cryptid story, but there was this. I saw this the other day. The Stanley Hotel in the Rocky Mountains, which was used for the filming of Stephen King's The Shining in the 1980s. Apparently, they had a black bear just wander into the lobby and walk around, and there's a video of he crawls on the couch and just checking everything out.
It just be like that sometimes.
Yeah, just like, yo, I'm all up in your stuff.
It just happens.
Yeah.
You know?
What you gonna do about it?
You ever woke up, come downstairs, and there's black beer on your coffee table?
Yeah, they're sitting there drinking my coffee, eating my donuts.
What do you even do in that situation? You're just like, okay,
Just go back upstairs and lock the door.
Hope he wanders out. Like, look at him. He's
just chill. He's like, hey,
yeah,
I don't need no reservation. He's a big boy too. He got a little bit of a belly on him.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, where's your gym?
A little bit of a belly.
Now he's sitting on the couch. He's like, this couch is too small.
Oh,
Little Goldilocks action there. Now he's wandering around. He's like, why are you people looking at me? I'm just a bear in the lobby of a hotel. Can a bear get some respect around here? He's like, dude, you messing with me? You talking to me? Anyway, so that's that was pretty funny. I don't. What is this other one? I didn't think I had another thing. Oh yeah, I didn't read this, but this is from upi.com. I don't even know what that is. I've never actually been on this webpage. But a mystery cat stokes mountain lion fears in Pennsylvania. I don't know why people have such a hard time with mountain lions.
they exist.
They don't exist in the U.S.
Yes,
Says who?
Yes, they do. We've seen tracks of.
Yeah,
mountain
we've seen
lions.
tracks here. I mean, we're in middle of South Carolina,
I'm
and
pretty
my
sure
brother, goes to work at the airport early in the morning, and he was going down the road and saw one like not 5 miles from here, cross the road. I mean, it was standing on the side of the road. He pulled over on the edge, or just stopped in the lane because it was 3:30 in the morning, wasn't very much traffic, and he was on a rural road, and he stopped and looked at it because he was thinking, "Wow, that's a weird looking dog." No, it was a mountain lion.
I mean, it's just
The cougar, whatever you want to call it, but yeah, because we know my brother's seen him a couple times, my oldest brother, and then another brother have found tracks on his property, and then I know of a couple people in Blythewood here who've seen Black Panthers in the woods. One of them being a game warden.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I don't know why people, somebody saw this weird looking cat. I'm pretty sure that looks like a mountain lion. I don't know what's so weird about that. They exist.
A weird looking.
They're
cat.
alive.
That is not a cat. Look at that. That's not some house cat.
Well, I
some
mean, it's a
weird-
cat. It's a big cat.
Oh, I know. It's a big cat. It's not. They're saying some weird looking cat, like it's a house cat. I mean, that's
Right.
Like,
Right.
that's
They're like, wow,
It's like
somebody's been feeding him well.
Great Dane size. There's no way that's like
Let's go give that little cat some milk.
just a regular cat.
Right. I don't understand why
There could be a mountain lion in the state. If there's one, I'm sure there's
more.
There's
I mean,
a population.
they took at least 2 to make him. So, guess what, people?
someone just
Procreation.
someone just dropped him in the middle of the country.
Yeah,
and
for
left
real.
him.
The stork dropped him off. And he just grew up. He'd probably been living in somebody's house and they thought it was a real cat. And wow, he's getting a little too big. We're going to kick him out. Anyways. Okay, I don't have it. Do you have anything else? It seems like there was something else I wanted to mention. I didn't really check cryptozoology news or the normal stuff we normally look at. But Senator John McCain passed away this week. I don't care what your political thoughts are and what your beliefs are, but to me, if you're a senator and you're a veteran and you're a POW, then you garner some respect regardless of what other people thought about what you think or what you did. I know that's some controversy right now, but he is, he was a veteran. My dad was a veteran. Your grandfather, he laid out in the jungles of Vietnam for 10 hours, taking enemy sniper fire, got wounded, almost died in that jungle because he was wounded and laid there for 10 hours. He eventually got out, and he's, 82 now? So, I mean, those guys are tough as nails, that generation. But anyways, what are we talking about tonight?
I don't know, Dad. What are we talking about
I
tonight?
don't know. I guess if I don't know, nobody knows.
Well, Queso, do you
So, yeah, Queso, what are we watching? What are we listening to tonight? What are we talking about? What are we listening walking? I don't know what I'm talking about. He don't care. He's like, whatever,
why
quit
is he
looking at
yelling
me.
me?
Yeah. He's like, why are you guys doing this? So, tonight we're going to talk about actually a missing 411 case. It's kind of a. When I first started researching this, I'm intrigued by the missing 411 cases. I mean, there's so many of them. It's mind-boggling. Anyways, this particular case, I read this, and it's got an even weirder factor to it. And then it's going to evolve into some more stuff, which we might make another episode out of eventually. Anyways, this is the case of John Doe. And John Doe, on October 1st, 2010, he was a little boy, 3 years old. And they refer to him as John Doe because of the situation and the family, just to protect them and their identity. But they were camping. He was camping with his family on a creek near Mount Shasta, or at the base of Mount Shasta. Like I said, he was 3 years old. And around 6:30 p.m., this little boy, John Doe, he just disappeared. His father described it and said, 1 second he was there and the next second he was gone. I mean, he was just that quick. He was done. He was gone. They couldn't figure out where he was at. Little did they know that, what would transpire over the next few hours and beyond that for weeks. This whole story. I mean, maybe still to this day, I don't know, because we don't know who he is. But little did they know, this would become one of the most bizarre missing 411 cases documented by David Pilates. And if you don't know who David Pilates is, and you don't know about missing 411, you just need to go and do a Google search, and maybe try to get our hands on a book. He's got a number of missing 411 books out. And just a synopsis, if aren't familiar with missing 411 series and David Pilates, he's a retired cop who was tipped off and began investigating mysterious disappearances in our national parks. However, these strange stories, would reach beyond the borders of the United States in some cases. But through his investigations into these unexplained disappearances, David Pilates has published a number of books about the subject and has worked up a profile of, characteristics common with all these cases or incidences of mysterious disappearances in our public lands. That profile or characteristics are, of what David Pilates came up with, are usually they're missing or found near creeks or rivers or some body of water. Geographically, they're clustered disappearances. So there's usually, if there's one, there's a number of them in that basic area. Bad weather comes up as search gets underway. So, like we saw in the little boy, the Martin case, up in the Great Smoky Mountains, he went missing right there off the Appalachian Trail in the Spence's Field and above Cades Cove. And when they started looking for him, they had bad weather come in, and real bad rain washed away any possibility of any tracks. Swamps and thickets or briar patches usually are involved. Most disappearances happen in late afternoon or early evening, which is, exactly what happened in this case we're going to talk about. If the person is eventually found, they usually are unable to recall what happened, or they just don't want to remember or talk about it. They're usually found in places that were extensively searched previously. We'll see that here. We did a missing 411 case about the guy in Michigan that went missing in the peninsula up there. He was a football player or something?
Yeah.
And that's what happened with him. He was missing, and when they found him a couple days later exactly where they had searched extensively in like an open area. Just like his body was just displayed. And in many cases, 411 cases, berries or berry patches are involved. It's very weird, profile that he's built, but, he's had plenty of cases to, refine this. So that series of characteristics basically is what he uses to define what he considers a missing 411 case. And therefore, goes on to research it. But as stated before, this disappearance happened on October 1st, 2010. The location was a camping area near Mount Shasta along a fairly good-sized creek. Approximately 6:30 p.m., this little 3-year-old boy named, we're going to call him John Doe, that's what they refer to him as, he just disappeared. The parents, thinking little John Doe had just wandered off, I guess they didn't call authorities for a couple hours. They searched and looked for him and called and all that. After, they had exhausted their abilities, they contacted the local sheriff's office and the U.S. Forestry Service. After about 5 hours from the time he went missing, little John Doe was found. He was found right next to a path or trail that the searchers and family had been using while searching for him. So he was right there. I mean, it wasn't like they found him on the other side of a mountain or 5 miles away or nothing. They found him right where they'd been searching and walking right past this area. And he was just, bam, he was there. He was found right next to a path or trail, like I said. John Doe was in the middle of a thicket, and aside from being dazed and semi-conscious, he was perfectly fine. They chalked the semi-conscious condition that he was in, to being just totally exhausted from the ordeal. He's only 3 years old, so it had to be, even though he might not have understood whatever was going on or why he was lost or whatever, still traumatic for even a little guy. You miss your parents. And plus, he went missing at 6:30. They found him 5 hours later. That's 11:30 when they found him. So it was dark. It gets dark quick in the mountains. So probably it was probably just about dark when he went missing. So anyways, you fast forward 3 weeks out after John Doe is found, and he's this little guy's with his grandmother, who he referred to as Grandma Cappy. I believe her name was actually Kathy, but 3 years old, they can't really pronounce things properly, so you call her Grandma Cappy. And so during this time with her, he tells his grandmother that he didn't like his other Grandma Cappy. Obviously, this sent a big flag up for his grandmother. She's like, what's he talking about? So she inquired about this comment, and he goes on to tell her the story of what happened when he disappeared. He tells her that this other grandma grabbed him and took him into a cave deep in the base of Mount Shasta, I'm guessing. In this cave, he said there were spiders and purses and guns covered with dust. They were all over the floor of this cave, and they were covered, in dust, like I said. And he also said that there were robots. Like, there were people that were very still, but they were robots. So at some point during the ordeal, he stated that this fake grandma climbed a ladder, and that light sparkled around or from her head. However, this light emanated, he stated, it made her look like a robot. And as I said, he stated there was also people all around this cave just standing still, not moving, but said all of these people were robots also. This has got to be incredibly creepy for this little guy. And it's got to be creepy for the grandmother hearing this, I would freak out, It's just like when you told us about the woman in the white dress coming in your bedroom and talking to you at night. That freaked us out a little bit, but so at least you were in your bedroom, weren't abducted into some cave with some creepy robot grandma. I mean, first you're abducted, so the little boy's abducted, then you're taken into this creepy dusty cave, terrifying stuff for anybody of any age, especially a little child. And as if that wasn't enough, now you realize that creepy cave-dwelling grandma is a robot, and she has her own little creepy, dormant robot Gestapo hanging out in the cave with her, and with you. So, I mean, what is this all about? Makes no sense. I mean, it's weird. So, next, the old lady tells John Doe, the robot grandma, she tells John Doe to lay down, tells the little boy, lay down on his back so she can look at his tummy. After he complies, she lays out sticky paper. paper on the ground and then ask him to go poopy on the sticky paper. And so the little guy doesn't really. He's like, I don't have to go. He don't want. He's not wanting to comply to that. I mean, this is odd. He's probably just learned how to go poopy in the potty, and now somebody's telling him to poop on the sticky paper on the floor. So he told her he couldn't, or he didn't need to, or whatever. She got very agitated with him, and kept pushing him to do it. And she eventually gave up on the sticky paper. And during their discussion, the lady told John Doe that she was from outer space, and that they had put him, John Doe, in his mommy's tummy. I don't know, it's a little creepy right there.
Yeah, it's a little strange.
Here, poop on this paper, and by the way, we're from outer space, and we put you inside your mommy's belly.
Extraterrestrial germination.
Yeah, it's probably a good thing he was only 3 years old, because that would mess somebody up. So, wow. I mean, that's just insane. I'm sure at this point, this little boy, only being 3 years old, it was hard for him to comprehend. He probably didn't really grasp what she was saying, outer space, and put me in my mommy's tummy and stuff. So, yeah, whatever. So that was probably, a blessing that he was only 3 years old. And, yeah. Because I would think at 3 years old, if you get out of this alive, you'll have just some chance of not being psychologically damaged or messed up for the remainder of your life from this kind of experience. I mean, imagine if you were like 10, that stuff, 3 years old, you have a good chance of not remembering a lot of it. So she then takes the boy to the thicket next to the path and tells him to stay there until a searcher finds him. So he goes on to describe this fake grandma to his real grandma. He says that the robot grandma looked like his real grandma. She had the same hair, same face, and the same feet as the real grandma. And his real grandma said that the way her grandson described the lady in the light, it sounded like he was describing a hologram, or that she may have been a hologram. I don't know why. I couldn't find any specifics about that made her think that, but that's the way she described, that discussion with her grandson. Now, this next part of the story has some mixed information. So I'm not sure which time frame is correct, but it adds another freaky spin to the whole situation here. So I heard that this happened 1 year prior to her grandson disappearing, and I've heard that it happened 1 week prior. So I'm not sure what the truth is. I've read multiple recounts of this story, and they've had either one or the other. So I don't know. So it's not necessarily relevant for what it adds to the story that the child tells. But anyways, prior to her grandson's disappearing for 5 hours around Mount Shasta, his grandma, Cappy, had a very strange experience in the same area. So Grandma Cappy and her husband were camping in McLeod, California at Fowler's Campground, very close to Mount Shasta. Okay, so here's the situation. One break here. The Chihuahua has decided to take a nap in Harrison's lap, so you're going to hear him snoring. I apologize. So anyways, they're camping. Grandma Cappy is camping with her husband in McLeod, California at Fowler's Campground, very close to Mount Shasta. One morning, she woke up face down outside of her tent, outside of her sleeping bag. She was laying face down in the dirt, and she had a pain in the base of her neck. So she asked her husband to have a look. Well, what do you know? At the base of her neck, he found a drop of blood and 2 puncture wounds. The skin around the puncture wounds was red and inflamed, and like any other rational adult, they assumed she had been bitten by a spider or some other insect. However, this did not explain why she was outside of her tent and outside of her sleeping bag. She was convinced that she had been bitten by a spider because she became violently ill that morning and claimed to be void of feelings. She just felt numb and feeling like that, like she had no emotions, she said. I also heard the story told that they had a friend camping with them in a camper nearby, and that friend had also woke up with 2 puncture wounds at the bottom of of his neck the next morning. And you guessed it, they also felt very sick in the morning. However, they were not removed from their camper, as far as what I could find. So the grandma had no recollections of what had happened to her. The last memory she had of the night before was laying in the tent and gazing out through the screen doors, the zip screen door there on the tent, and saw red eyes, multiple pairs, looking through the trees at them as they were dozing off to sleep. She stated that, like I said, there were multiple sets of red eyes, and that the last memory she had before waking up face down in the dirt the next morning. And it was several months before Grandma Cappy felt back to normal from this whole situation. Now, she believed that those red eyes were deer. I don't think I've ever seen red eye shine from deer.
They're always like white or yellow.
Yeah, and the way, having multiple sets, I don't know, that's the creepy factor there. I don't want to get all crazy conspiracy, but, a lot of people claim red eye, not even shine, red eye glow from Bigfoot, Sasquatch sightings. That when they see them in the dark, they say they project light. They don't reflect light, they project it.
Bioluminescence.
And if she's laying in a tent and she's not shining a light because she's trying to go to sleep, obviously, and they've got it open so they get a breeze. I mean, I've slept that way in a tent with you don't put the cover on it, you leave it kind of open, you just have a rain fly on it, and you get some air flowing through there, and you see these red creepy eyes staring back at you. Well, they don't just reflect no light, Yeah. If you're trying to go to sleep, usually your light's out. So I don't know that's what happened, but it's odd. It's Mount Shasta. Lots of weird stuff happens around Mount Shasta. What do you think about the story, Harrison?
I don't know. I mean, the whole eyes glowing red is kind of...
Well, she didn't say they glow red.
No.
She just said she saw a red eye shine.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they had a flashlight and were like, "Hey, what's that?"
Yeah, it could have been. Definitely.
I don't know the specifics about that, but I'm talking about the whole story. And
yeah.
That's like the least weird part about the whole story is the red eye shine.
Oh yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's weird. The whole
robot grandma is crazy.
Yeah, and the whole drained of emotion thing is kind of strange too. That got to me because you can do that. It's simple, just antidepressants or depressants,
right.
In medicine. That's not.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, what I think is weird is how, okay, you got robot grandma says they took this little boy and put him in mommy's tummy, and that, basically she wanted to check his tummy and she wanted a poop sample. Sounds to me like, okay, we're breeding this little alien kid or something, and mommy, if she's from outer space, like she says, and they've got some kind of little hybrid, and they're just checking up on him. And maybe grandma, if this happened a year before, maybe, he was 3. I don't know. It was crazy. I'm just going off on the deep end here, but, it sounds like if they got grandma, they took a blood sample and they probably put something in it to sedate her. She didn't even know. She's laying out in the dirt on her face.
Like made a clone of her. A clone,
yeah, maybe.
Or made like a hologram.
Maybe they made a little robot grandma out of her.
Maybe they did. Never know.
Hologram robot grandma.
Yeah, it's the thing.
It's crazy.
Should be at least.
It's a new thing. It's like better than Dolly the sheep, right?
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's the story. But as I went on with this, I decided to dig a little bit deeper because I heard some weird stuff about Mount Shasta. Mm-hmm. It's a creepy place. Mm-hmm. But we might have to check that out if we go out west next summer.
Might, yeah.
If that plan works out. But anyways, so I just thought I'd add some. That's the story about John Doe missing at Mount Shasta. But here's some weird stuff I found about Mount Shasta. I just thought I'd throw it in there. So tribes that have been there for hundreds of years claim there's a race of prehistoric giants that inhabit the area, the region. I'm thinking, a lot of times Native American people talk about these prehistoric giants. In a lot of cases, it's pretty much understood that they're referring to Sasquatch. They believe that they're a prehistoric people instead of a big old ape. Yeah. Because if they're true and people are telling the truth about some of their encounters, they do seem to have a lot of intelligence. Speaking of which, did you watch that video about the one throwing the tree?
Mm-mm. Sure did.
Man. If you haven't seen that, go out to Sasquatch Chronicles. I think I've seen this video before, but I think it's on the blog post for like August 26th, and it's like creature throwing tree or something like that was the statement. But if you go in there and you watch that video, it's like a 13-minute long video, but only the first minute or so is about this encounter, because I think it's going through like 5 different creature encounters. But this one is like, I think it's Calgary, Alberta, and these like loggers are getting ready to start their day, and somebody notices something at the edge of the woods, and this thing apparently pissed off at them, and it's like down on all fours, it appears, and it throws a tree, like a 40-foot long tree, launches it like a javelin. Pretty impressive.
It sounds impressive.
Pretty impressive. I mean, bears can't do that. People couldn't do that. There's nobody could do that. The Rock couldn't throw up.
No.
Well, I mean, you might be able to pick it up, but I don't think he's going to launch it like this thing did.
No, sure not.
Good Lord.
Destroy all the muscles.
He needs to be on an Olympic team, man. He could throw a javelin like out of an Olympic stadium.
Be launching rockets for NASA. Just pick
It's
them up,
crazy. We'll just
them
throw
up
it
here.
into space.
Yeah.
That's right. Who needs all this? I mean, we're blowing away ozone and stuff. We just have Sasquatch launch rockets.
That is the least.
That's awesome.
That's the smallest area of ozone deterioration.
Whatever.
for
Just let me go
mankind.
with it. Okay, just let me have a little fun here.
Okay.
Why you gotta get all scientific and burst my bubble, man?
Just saying.
Okay, let's get into more serious stuff here. Let's talk about the Lemurians. So, in Mount Shasta, people believe that Lemurians have an underground crystal city called Telos, and they access it via caves on Mount Shasta. Now, this kind of correlates with creepy robot grandma, hologram robot grandma. So, in 1864, a guy named Philip Slater, I'm guessing it's Slater, it's S-C-L-A-T. It's not how I would spell Slater. Anyways, he published an article in which he explained a new species, which were lemurs. However, their fossils have been found in Madagascar and India, but not in Africa or the Middle East. So this was unexplainable unless India and Madagascar were at one time connected. So this led to, I guess this was kind of what led to the discovery of Pangea. Is that true? I don't know.
What is it?
Pangea. That Madagascar and India and all the continents were connected at one time.
Yeah.
Which was Pangea, which was an ancient supercontinent. Mm-hmm. So the theory basically means that, like I said, all existing continents, Europe, Africa, North America, South America, Australia, Antarctica, Asia, we're all connected, and probably some other lands that may be sunk into the ocean or whatever.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, because of this theory and the fact that lemur fossils were only found in Madagascar and India, it was believed that these two were connected back when Pangea existed. So this became known. I guess it was. I don't know if they're saying Madagascar and India were together and they knew this land as Lemuria. I think some believe that Lemuria was a continent that was involved, and Atlantis was involved. And I believe there's a theory that when the continents started to break up, those two went down, went underwater. Anyways, so Lemuria, it became known as Lemuria. So it's believed that this continent, Lemuria, eventually sunk into the ocean. Hey, didn't I just say that? Then in 1899, a book was published called A Dweller on Two Planets. In this book, the author, Frederick Spencer Oliver, claimed the survivors of the supposed sunken continent of Lemuria were actually living inside of Mount Shasta and were known as Lemurians. The interesting thing about this book is that Oliver was a teenager. I memean, Mount Shasta, this is weird. You got to hang with me here. This is weird stuff. So the interesting thing about this book is that Oliver, that wrote that book, Frederick Spencer Oliver, was a teenager working with his parents at their mining camp near Mount Shasta. One day, while marking property boundaries, he went into a trance-like state and was shaking and convulsing, and his hand kind of went out of control. And when he had enough wits about him to get home, somehow he ran back to where his mom was at, and she witnessed him acting all crazy and convulsing and doing crazy stuff. And apparently his hand was moving erratically, so I guess they say, hey, give this guy a pen and paper. or a quill. I guess a quill and ink back then. This was 1800s. So they do, and he starts writing. So he wrote until he eventually came out of the trance-like state. However, he had more episodes of this trance-like state, and every time he would start writing, he was having like visions or something. This text was coming to him, and anyway, so he wrote the book A Dweller on Two Planets. And supposedly he believes this was projected to him by the Lemurians. Tells their story, and so he tells the story, thousands of years ago, the continents, Pangea broke up, and Lemuria was one of the lands, and it sunk below the ocean, and the Lemurians that lived there, that survived, they got to what is now the west coast of U.S., and they settled in the base of Mount Shasta. So they built this city under Mount Shasta. Cricket. Anyways, so
I was just trying to think. The west coast of North America, when it was in Pangea, would have been completely.
Well, this is after it broke up.
But
this is like after.
That's what I'm saying, when they were all together, America or the North America was all one piece, but it was on the far left, so there was nothing except ocean until
Right.
eventually wrapped around the other side of the globe to where the rest of the continent was.
What's the matter? If your land is sinking in the water, you'd be scrapping, just going wherever you can go.
Yeah.
So it just depends on where Lemuria was.
Yeah.
The way I saw it, it looked like Lemuria was right, like south of where the U.S. was. Nobody knows because nobody was alive back then. Nobody drew maps. This is just what they suppose Pangea looked like. So, anyways. Oliver believed that the Lemurians used him as a messenger to, tell their story. And this book told of, futuristic technologies that were way before his time, or that time of the late 1800s. So he also told stories of seeing cigar-shaped UFOs, which I thought was wild, which are, common occurrence today, and one of the most frequently seen type. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. One of the most frequently spotted, encountered UFOs, or sighted, wherever. And however, the first stories of cigar-shaped UFOs didn't actually come out until the 1940s and 50s. So it's like 60 years later. But this guy wrote about them in a book.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. And there was other stuff like levitation and hovercrafts or something. I don't know. There's some documentaries about it. I want to get that book. I got to try to find it because I think it's interesting. Did I find it? Oh yeah, I found it. I found it on Google Books. It's a free book, so I'm gonna read it. But I got to finish what I'm reading now. I'm reading another great book called 37th Parallel. It's awesome. Anyways, so in 1931, another book was published about the Lemurians of Mount Shasta, and this book really got the whole story of the Lemurians going. However, these books, are backed up by supposed witness encounters with strange beings on Mount Shasta. One of the first of these having taken place in 1904 when J.C. Brown claimed to have found an underground city under Mount Shasta. This city, he claimed, was 11 miles underground. I don't know. How do you get 11 miles underground?
Humans can.
I understand that, but who the
deepest,
heck wants to go 11 miles underground?
Yeah. I was going to say, the deepest that humans have ever done as a race.
I'd be like 25, 30 feet under, and I'd be like, I'm going back where the sun's at.
8 miles.
I'd be freaked out.
Is the deepest hole we've built, and it was a borehole. It wasn't something you could go down inside of. So,
Did they really have pigs down there? Okay. Anyways, so he said the underground city was full of large mummies, some of which being as tall as 10 feet. There was also a lot of gold and shields, and of course, this underground city was never found, and J.C. Brown disappeared. It's weird, one of those strange things. He convinced some people to do like an expedition to go look for it, and the day they all came together at that place and were going to go look in Mount Shasta, they couldn't find him. He was gone.
Maybe the Lemurians.
They probably came and got him. That Saint Germain guy that people claim to see, the big Aryan race looking dude that people run into around Mount Shasta with the blue eyes, wearing the white robe and the blonde hair. He's supposed to be really tall and slender, like Aryan race looking guy. Yeah. probably what got him. St. Germain's like, no, you must go back. We're taking you back under the ground. 11 feet, 11 miles. So anyways, there have been other witness accounts, but it seems that they all seem to kick up after another book about the Lemurians was published. So there are still many people who believe Lemurians are a real thing, and they describe that Lemuria and Atlantis at one time were the two most powerful and civilized cultures on Earth, and that there was a catastrophe and both of them sunk into the ocean. But some Lemurians survived and built a city known as Telos under Mount Shasta. The Lemurians are described by some as being highly evolved humans, and others describe them as being animalistic in nature. They're described as taller than average. And that was an interesting thing, like with the book that Oliver wrote or channeled or whatever, he claimed that they were an ancient civilization, that they, were here thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. And so it's crazy. The funny thing about the Lemurians, I think it's this whole belief and the whole thing about Mount Shasta has created a number of like belief systems or almost like cult groups. People have spun off because they believed in the Lemurians and this weird stuff going on in Mount Shasta. But anyways, some also claim that Mount Shasta has an energy vortex, and a lot of spiritual healers and stuff go there for healing and doing whatever they do. Couple other last facts about Mount Shasta is a high number of missing persons cases, which we covered one of them here tonight. A lot of UFO sightings, a lot of Bigfoot sightings, a lot of strange light sightings, a lot of other cryptid sightings, little people sightings and encounters. So it's really just, it's like anybody that is interested in the kind of subject matter that we cover here would love to go to Mount Shasta, apparently. Just don't disappear. Just make sure you hang out with somebody. Wind up with robot grandma taking you off. So that's it in a nutshell. Like I said, there's so much about Mount Shasta. We might have to actually eventually do another episode about it because it's interesting stuff. So that's a wrap for this episode. You got anything you want to add, buddy?
Not really. I mean, I think it was a pretty interesting episode.
Yeah. We're probably going to have a good one next week, too. I got some information from somebody that contacted us through email. Can't give any of that out. But hopefully, I've got a lot of information. This person provided us with a lot of information. So I've got to go through it over this weekend and try to get it wrapped into a show. It might be a long show next week. As usual, if you have an encounter or experience you want to contact us, you can write us at unexplained.reality@yahoo.com. You can go to www.unexplainedreality.com and fill out the contact form if you'd rather do it that way. You can also go there and hit any of the social media icons that connect to us: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also just go to those individual social media sites and look up Unexplained Reality, and chances are you'll find us and you can connect to us. Facebook, we have a closed group that you can send us a request and we'll bring you into it, and you can be part of that little secret group. You might get a ring, decoder ring. As usual, we want to thank podcasts that inspired us, that we listen to. Unexplained Reality, Mysterious Universe, Sasquatch Chronicles, The Confessionals, Monsters Among Us, OK Talk, Cryptid Factor, Into the Fray Radio. Come on, help me out. Check out our guys at 7 Ages Audio Journal.
The Grayling Report.
The Grayling Report. Both of those are Micah Hanks, but 7 Ages Audio Journal is Micah Hanks, James Waldo, and Jason Pentrell's great podcast. If you're in archaeology and ancient civilizations, that kind of stuff, it's awesome. Expanded Perspectives, can't forget them, man. That's a great one. all those are great podcasts. You should be listening to all of them. If you listen to us, you should be listening to them before you listen to us. Because they are actually like pros. We're just like here with a chihuahua. Sorry, Queso. Anyways, that's a wrap for us this week. And any final words, buddy?
Have a great week.
Have a great week. Yep. We'll try to be back next week. Could be the week after, but we'll try our best. See ya.
Tell us a story, Ranger Chet.
Oh, okay. I could tell you about the time I locked eyes with Sasquatch, or about my brush with the elusive Chupacabra. Then there was that encounter with the Mothman.
Yeah, tell us about the Mothman.
Of course, I once saw a lake monster and a sea monster on the same day.
Wow!
That's not even taking all the ghosts, aliens, and UFOs into account.
You've seen all that as a park ranger?
No, son. Those are the creatures I've encountered in my cryptid crate.
What's a cryptid crate?
Cryptid Crate is a monthly subscription box that arrives on your doorstep each and every month. It's filled with various cryptozoology and paranormal themed items such as t-shirts, hats, art, media, and other collectibles.
I want a cryptid crate. Yeah, I want one too.
You can get yours by visiting www.cryptidcrate.com. Sign up is quick and easy, and shipping is always free. I can't wait to get my Cryptid Crate, but for now, how about that story?
Old is where I like to go when I'm feeling like I'm feeling right now. When time was moving slow and this old road to hold wasn't quite so long and loud. Sometimes I just need a little taste of the past, back when my only worry was running out of gas. I dream about the hours underneath that water tower, way before I had a care in the world. On the hood of Tommy's old Chevette, a six-pack and some cigarettes, and we'd lie about how far we'd get with girls. The drive-ins are now a parking lot, and the Walmart took our favorite spot, but I love looking back across the years. My mind is all still crystal clear. I can almost see that water tower from here. I remember the night when Tommy had a fight with his high school sweetheart Beth. Cut the lock and climbed up to the top, scared the whole town half to death. When he saw how far it was from up there to the ground, the fire department had to come and help him down. I dream about the hours underneath that water tower, way before I had a care in the world. On the six-pack and some cigarettes, and we lie about how far we get with girls. The drive-ins are now a parking lot, and the Walmart took our favorite spot, but I love looking back across the years. And my mind is all still crystal clear. I can almost see that water tower. Of change, but I can close my eyes and simply drift away and dream about the hours underneath that water tower, way before I had a care in the world. On the hood of Tommy's old Chevette, a six-pack and some cigarettes, and we lie about how far we get with girls.